All Sergeant, will you please start your recordings?
Recording to the computer, all set.
Recording to the cloud, all set.
Backup is rolling.
Thank you. Good morning and welcome to the New York City Council remote hearing on veterans jointly with the Committee on Aging. At this time, will all panelists please turn on your videos. I repeat, all panelists, please turn on your videos. Thank you. To minimize disruption, please place all electronic devices to vibrate or silent mode. If you wish to submit testimony, you may do so at testimony@council.nyc.gov. I repeat, testimony@council.nyc.gov. Chairs, we are ready to begin.
Thank you. Buenos dias, everyone. My name is Councilmember Chaim Deitch, Chair of the Committee on Veterans, and I would like to welcome everyone to today's virtual joint hearing on supporting the city's aging veterans, held by the New York City Council's Committee on Veterans and the Committee on Aging. I would like to acknowledge my colleague, Councilmember Margaret Chin, the Chair of the New York City Council's Committee on Aging. I would also like to thank the Department of Veterans Services, as well as the Department for the Aging, for attending today's hearing. It has been a trying time as the city reckons with and works to recover from the COVID-19 pandemic. Aside from the deaths and illness caused by COVID-19, this past year has led to economic hardship and isolation for many, as we collectively struggle with a global public health crisis, the likes of which has not been observed any of our lifetimes. While much remains that we do not know about the virus, we do know that COVID-19 disproportionately affects older individuals, and that veteran experience higher rates of social, physical, mental, and health ailments. As such, veterans, and particularly aging veterans, are a demographic that will likely need additional support and services. Since the majority of the city's estimated 200,000 veterans are seniors or are nearing senior age, this hearing has been convened in order to specifically consider and analyze the unique needs and characteristics of the city's aging veterans. In particular, the committees hope to learn more about the city's suite of services targeted towards older veterans, how older veterans can and do receive assistance from city agencies when they need it, the extent of collaboration between the Department for Veteran Services and Department for Aging, and identify any gaps in services needed for this demographic. As more of these programs are moved online, we want to ensure that older veterans have proper and adequate access to the benefits that are owed and do not face unnecessary obstacles in receiving these benefits. There are also specific issue areas affecting older veterans that the committee wants to discuss and hear about today. Research shows that housing affordability and homelessness continue to be an acute concern for aging veterans, as more than half of the veterans living in New York City's homeless shelters are older adults. Older military veterans also have a high level of need in relation to physical and mental well-being, and the increased isolation brought on by the pandemic is likely to exacerbate these issues. Finally, we want to learn from DVS and DFTA, as well as members of the public who have signed up to testify, any other outstanding issues that remain and are not being fully addressed in regards to the aging veterans population here in New York City. To that end, today we'll be hearing Intro 1616-2019, sponsored by Councilmember Paul Vallone. Intro 1616 would add additional requirements to DVS Annual's report about the number of seniors DVS serves, and as well as the number of inquiries received by DVS from veterans regarding specific programs. So I would like to acknowledge and welcome my colleagues who have joined us here, and I'd like to acknowledge Alika Ampry Samuel, whose husband is a veteran, Councilmember Ruben Diaz, Councilmember Deanne Ayala, Councilmember Matthew Eugene, Councilmember Alan Maisel. I'm not sure if I missed anyone. Let me take a look. I think I got everyone. And I'd also like to thank my staff, Joe Bello, my Director of Veterans Affairs, and I'd also like to thank Central staff who helped me prepare for this hearing, Nuzat Bianca, Kalima, and Thomas. And finally, I would especially like to thank the Committee on Aging, Chair Margaret Chin, and all of the staff for collaborating and working with us to prepare this hearing today. We're going to be hearing testimony first from some of the CBOs in regards to what challenges they have regarding our aging veteran community before we hear from our administration. So I'd like to ask the council to administer the oath.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you. My name is Bianca Vitale, and I'm council.
Oh,
Yeah,
good morning. Should I?
I'm sorry, council.
Yes,
Yeah,
I think we went a little bit off script here.
Yes,
I think
yes.
that
I was just
Chair
testing you out.
Chair Chin
Yeah.
was going to give some opening
So,
remarks.
so I'm
No worries. I was like, okay, we'll jump right into it. I didn't realize.
testing you out,
Yeah.
just
You
testing
can
you
turn it
out.
over to Chair Chin for opening remarks.
So
and then Chair
I'd
Chin
like
will
to,
pass it back to me.
one second, can I introduce my colleague?
Oh, sure. Go ahead.
Okay, we're not going to administer the oath to you, Margaret.
Yes.
So I would like to introduce my colleague, very vocal in the city council, and please don't overshadow me. And this is a very relaxed hearing, no controversy, so without further ado, I'd like to introduce my colleague, Councilmember Margaret Chin.
Good morning, Chair Deutsch. Look, when we have the aging committee, it's always very lively but cordial, right? And fun.
Always.
Good morning. I'm Councilmember Margaret Chin, Chair of the Committee on Aging, and I would like to welcome you to today's joint oversight hearing on supporting New York City's aging veteran population. I'd like to thank Chair Deutsch for co-chairing this important hearing with me. During today's hearing, we will be discussing a population within our aging committee that does not get talked about enough: senior veterans. According to the Department of Veterans Service, DVS, there are over 150,000 veterans living in New York City. And of those veterans, about 1/3 served in the Vietnam War. About 17% served between 1990 and 2001. This means that about 72% of the city's veterans are age 55 or older. This is not an insignificant population. Just as all of our seniors have unique needs, senior veterans also have unique challenges related to their experience as veterans. This population tends to experience higher rate of social, physical, mental, and health ailments. Because of their service and experience, for example, seniors veterans often suffer from post-traumatic stress disorder. The older these veterans get, the more likely it's for their PTSD to re-emerge. Often, this is because they have retired and no longer have distractions to occupy their time, or because they have more medical problems the older they get, which trigger their PTSD. Senior veterans also tend to have higher rates of disability due to injuries from their service. Perhaps because of all this, senior veterans have lower workforce participation rates, and often they live on very limited means, relying on Social Security and Medicare. In fact, over half of the veterans living in homeless shelters are older adults. This is a population that needs special attention, but rarely gets any. In fact, it does not seem the city even served this population specifically. Although DVS and DFTA have plenty of programs to serve all veterans and all seniors, it is not clear whether they have any programming, resources, or initiative that specifically look at senior veterans. It is also not clear what data the agency collects on senior veterans and their needs, or how the agency work together to serve them. At this hearing, we want to hear from our senior veterans and senior veterans organization. We want to know what challenges senior veterans are facing. What has been their unique needs during this pandemic? What services have they been using, and what services have been unhelpful to them during this time? And from DVS and DFTA, we want more information. We want to know how you are serving older veterans, what programs and resources you are offering them, and how your agencies communicate and are working together to make sure no senior veterans falls through the cracks. I'd like to thank the committee staff for their help in putting together this hearing. Our counsel, Nusat Chadori, policy analyst, Kalima Johnson, finance analyst, Daniel Krupp, finance unit head, Doheny Sapura, and my director of legislation, Kana Irvin. And I'd like to thank the other members of the committee for joining us today. Now I will turn it back to Chair Deutsch. Thank you.
Thank you, Margaret. Very well said. I will now ask our committee counsel, Bianca Vitale, to go over some procedural items.
Perfect. We did great. Hi, everyone. Thank you. My name is Bianca Vitale, and I am counsel to the Committee on Veterans for the New York City Council. Before we begin, I want to remind everyone that you will be on mute until you are called on to testify, when you will be unmuted by the host. I will be calling on panelists to testify. Please listen for your name to be called. I will be periodically announcing who the next panelist will be. For everyone testifying today, please note that there may be a few seconds of delay before you are unmuted, and we thank you for your patience. All hearing participants should submit written testimony to testimony@council.nyc.gov. At today's hearing, the first panel will be representatives from local veterans organizations, followed by council member questions. Then after the first panel, we will hear from the administration's representatives, followed by council member questions, and then the remaining panelists will give some testimony. During the hearing, if council members would like to ask a question, please use the Zoom raise hand function, and I will call on you in the order in which you have raised your hands. I will now call on the first panel. Testimony will be provided by Ashton Stewart, Joe Vitti, Peter Kempner, Coco Culhane. I would like to now welcome Ashton Stewart to testify. After Mr. Stewart, I will be calling on Joe Vitti, Peter Kempner, and then Coco Calhoun to testify. Ashton Stewart.
Good morning. Thank you so much for having this hearing today and for inviting SAGE and SAGE Vets to participate. Chair Deutsch, happy belated birthday to you, sir. And very nice to meet you, Chair Chin.
Don't give up my age. Thank you.
Definitely won't. I'll respect that. SAGE Vets is a New York State program for older LGBT veterans, and that started in 2014, and I've been the program manager since May of 2018. We're profoundly grateful for the support from the City Council and the Committee on Veterans for helping us raise our profile here and get a little bit more work done. Speaking of access issues, I just want to start out with the top issue that's a federal issue. The National Records Center, where we get all of the personnel files from a military member's service, has been closed since March 2020. The only thing that they're providing are DD-214s, which most often we don't need. We need the records to show history of disability compensation claims, everything, you name it. The only thing that we've been able to do is help out veterans who already have a lot of this information already. So that is priority number one. I know the New York State Division of Veterans Services has made it their federal priority as well. Hopefully that will change soon. But in the meantime, we've been keeping ourselves very active and very busy. The access to these benefits is a problem, but New York State is taking a leadership and recognizing the fact that a lot of older LGBT veterans served during the time when it was pre-Don't Ask, Don't Tell, when they still had anti-LGBT policies. A lot of them were discharged with OTH discharges, and that itself is a barrier to services and access to military benefits. So the Restoration of Honor Act was signed by the Governor Cuomo last November. We were involved with some of that buildup. We worked with Senator Brad Hoylman, who was the original bill sponsor, and Assembly Member Dee Barrett to help with some language, because a lot of these veterans who were discharged for the sexual orientation, it was a secondary issue why they were discharged. So we helped encourage the legislature to include PTSD, TBI, and MST, along with sexual orientation and gender identity in this legislation. It's huge. This bill is getting so much traction. It's got legs. New York State is serving as a model for other states. I can tell you Colorado is about to sign a similar bill. California modeled their legislation after our legislation, which is in committee at the moment, AB 325. Illinois State reached out to us through Dee Barrett's office asking for more information about crafting similar legislation. New Jersey has a bill. And I know this because I am part of the Delaware Valley Veterans Consortium, and I'm always talking about Restoration of Honor Act and how it's making a significant change and improvement to people's lives. We had our first meritorious application last year with Lewis Miller, who not only has access to New York State veteran benefits now, but he also has validation for the discharge for being gay was wrong. The state of New York has acknowledged that. And we're trying to get him help to get that discharge changed at the federal level. All of this is a culmination to pressure on the federal government to make the change at that level, which would take care of all of this nonsense. And there is a bill that was put together by Gillibrand and Schatz called the Restore Honor to Service Members Act. So all of this work hopefully will result in something positive in the near future. And we're also always uncovering situations that a lot of providers aren't aware of for older LGBT veterans. One such experience was a veteran who was discharged for being gay with an honorable discharge, was 5 months shy of completing the 2-year requirements for access to healthcare after the end of his service. And because he was kicked out for being gay, we're working with some providers to try to change the policy of the VA for cases such as his. He would benefit significantly from getting some healthcare at a veteran's establishment like the VA, who understand the veteran experience. And we have not been able to help him with that so far because of this 2-year requirement. And we couldn't do this without the support of the council. So I just want to thank you so much. I can go on and on about the Restoration of Honor Act. I think you get the idea, but I'd be happy to add context or answer any questions should there be any. And I submitted my testimony. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ashton. I'd like to hear more, so maybe we'll come over to my house for a barbecue one night.
Okay, I would love to. Be honored.
Next, I would like to call up, thank you so much, Mr. Stewart. I would like to call on Joe Vitti, and we'll definitely have a period for questions and answers. So after this first panel, the chairs will definitely have a period of questions to ask. Okay, great. Joe Vitti, you're up next.
Sorry. Good morning, Chair Deutsch, Chair Chin, and members of the New York City Council Committee on Veterans and Community of Aging. My name is Joe Vitti. I'm the Director of Visitor Service of New York's Veterans Program. I'm also a post 9/11 veteran who served in the U.S. Army as a military intelligence officer. I want to thank you for the opportunity to testify about the hospice and home care services that the Visiting Nurse Service of New York provides to our aging veteran population. As the nation's largest not-for-profit home and community-based care organization in the U.S. for approximately 40,000 clients and patients, VNS&Y has always been there for New York throughout many of its biggest public health and natural emergencies, including COVID-19. Since March of 2020, VNS&Y has cared for more than 6,000 COVID-positive New Yorkers throughout the 5 boroughs. There are approximately 140,000 veterans in New York City today, 71% of whom are older than 55 years old. Due to the health complexities of vets and the complexities of the VA healthcare system and the systemic poor health literacy among veterans, many veterans never fully access or utilize the benefits that they need. As New York City's veterans population continues to age, it is becoming even more important to make these services available, as well as provide community outreach so that they know about their full VA benefits and community health organizations within their own communities and neighborhoods. VNS&Y VNS&Y Hospice is the largest home care and hospice provider to veterans in New York State. Our Hospice Veterans Program is a level 5 that was awarded by the Federal VA Health Administration and the National Hospice and Palliative Care Organization as being a leader that that empowers hospice providers and professionals to meet the unique needs of veterans during end-of-life care. And our Veterans Home Health Care program tailors our high-quality home care needs to the particular attention of veterans. Together, our two departments in hospice and home care have provided care in the comforts of their own homes to 1,580 veterans in 2020 alone. In our testimony, we have our stats broken down by war era and their locations per borough. So please refer to that. On average, our veterans have 8 to 10 chronic and terminal conditions, in contrast with our general patient population that has 3 to 4. Veterans' top 3 conditions in hospice are heart failure, COPD, and cancer. In our home care, it's surgical recoveries, medication management, and cancer as well. Both programs provide veterans and their families with a skilled veteran liaison who assists them with accessing the many benefits and services available. Our staff is diverse in ethnicity, gender, type of military service, which helps us bring culturally competent care when addressing veterans' issues. We've continued to provide this care throughout COVID-19, both in person and through telehealth outreach, and have conducted virtual events in order to engage with community organization and veteran service organizations throughout. We also work with New York City Department of Veteran Services and social service programs to coordinate additional care benefits such as Meals on Wheels type of services. We welcome these opportunities to grow and collaborate with DVS. In a recent example of how we assist our veterans, we recently had the privilege of a veteran who had been diagnosed with terminal cancer. He and his wife had no family or friend support, and the wife needed additional help taking care of him that our home care could no longer address due to the complexity and how advanced his cancer was. So due to his decline in health, we connected him to the VA healthcare system, which assigned him to a primary care physician and gave him additional personal care hours through the VA home-based primary care program. And we also helped him secure copies of his discharge papers and correct his social security number that he had forged when he was younger in order to enlist early. He was then admitted to our hospice program, where he and his wife received ongoing compassionate support from our expert hospice team, and he passed away peacefully this past February, the comfort of his own home. His wife, if you refer to our testimony, wrote a very thankful and grateful letter to us as well. So Venus and Wise Veterans Program's mission is to improve the lives of veterans with unmet healthcare needs. Without access to needed support, veterans are at a greater risk for poor health outcomes. This important initiative has allowed us to engage veterans in discussions about their health goals while providing support, guidance, and linkage to appropriate services, benefits, and entitlements. I want to thank you all today for this opportunity to testify, and I'm available to address any further questions. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Mr. Beatty. I'm now going to call on Peter Kempner to give testimony.
Yeah, I'd like to, should we go to Councilman Vallone just to give his,
Yes, so sorry. I'm not sure that Councilmember Vallone is going to give opening remarks. Remarks, or is he? Give me 1 second, Chair. Sorry, we didn't account for him giving remarks about the legislation. Hold on 1 second. Chair, can we just finish this first panel? Because I posed questions to staff. Let's just finish up the testimony of the first panel, and then if we have to stop questions and answers to turn it over to Councilmember Vallone, then we'll pivot. But let's just, Peter Kempner, you may begin.
Thank you, Council. Good morning. My name is Peter Kempner, and I'm the Legal Director at Volunteers of Legal Service, also known as VOLS, where I supervise our Veterans Initiative, which is part of our elderly project. Thank you, Chair Chin and Chair Deutsch, for holding this hearing that lies exactly in the intersection of the populations that we serve in our Veterans Initiative. Prior to the COVID-19 outbreak, we were able to see clients in person at the Manhattan VA hospital, but unfortunately that's no longer an option for us. And so we have moved our services online and over the phone to be able to serve elderly veterans in New York City. And the core of the work that we do at the Veterans Initiative is to draft and execute life planning documents for older veterans, which includes last wills and testaments, powers of attorney, healthcare proxies, living wills, and other advanced directives. As we all know, the COVID-19 crisis has truly ravaged our veteran community. In January 2021, it was determined that more veterans had died from COVID-19 than in both the Iraq and Afghanistan conflicts combined. And in looking at who passed away from COVID-19 amongst the veteran population, it was shown that more than half of those who had passed away were age 50 and over. And so truly the senior veterans are at the most risk. And locally, we've also seen a devastating impact of the pandemic on our seniors, who have suffered 80% of COVID-related deaths in New York City. And in our minds, this crisis has only reinforced the urgency and the importance of planning for disability and for end of life. Sadly, too few seniors have properly planned for the future, and we know that the New York City veteran community is a graying one. These veterans need to be able to plan so they're able to age in the community with dignity and with respect. Sadly, studies have shown that veterans, like the population at large, have not engaged in proper life planning. For example, a 2015 study showed that more than half of veterans lacked advanced directives, and a 2017 study showed that of 2,500 veterans being treated for cancer, 81% did not have any advanced directives in place. And we know that also in the New York City veteran community are disproportionately people of color. And it has also been shown that people of color are less likely to engage in advanced care planning. Many of the low-income older veterans that we serve think that they don't need to have advanced directives in place because they don't have the resources or the wealth to pass on to the next generation. And frankly, they're wrong about this. By engaging in effective life planning, elderly and disabled veterans are more likely to stay in their homes where they can age in place with dignity and respect. For example, a veteran who has executed a power of attorney empowers their agent to be able to seek government benefits, to pay for housing costs, to sign renewal leases, to apply for and recertify for housing subsidies, and to deal with any issues that might arise with their landlord or with their housing provider. Landlords and market forces, as we know, are increasingly pushing long-term tenants from their housing. And so taking any action to stabilize housing for veterans is more urgent than ever. Healthcare proxies allow caregivers to make critical medical decisions and seek appropriate care for the veterans who entrusted them with this agency. And without these tools in place, older veterans might find themselves in a nursing home, which in New York City costs an average of $150,000 per year. Veterans on Medicaid and Medicare who live in their homes will save taxpayers approximately $1,600 per month. Effective life planning can also enable or also keep disabled and elderly veterans from falling into guardianship and other government involvement. Veterans should be given the opportunity to choose someone they trust to handle their affairs, and guardianships also could be very costly to public coffers due to legal fees, court examiners, and the involvement of adult protective services. Our hope is that the oversight being conducted today by your two committees, the reporting requirements that are outlined in Intro 1616, will bring to light many of the issues that older veterans in New York City face. Cooperation between DVS and DFTA is one key to meeting the needs of older veterans, and we applaud the recognition of this intersectionality that is embodied in holding this joint hearing today. Thank you for allowing us to submit this testimony and supporting the needs of our older veterans.
Thank you so much, Mr. Kempner. Actually, right now we're going to turn it over to Councilmember Vallone to give some remarks on Intro 1616 of 2018. And then we will finish our panel and open it up for questions and answer period. So I'm going to turn it over to Councilmember Vallone.
There we go. Thank you so much. Good morning, everyone. And to the panel that's up now, your words, honestly, as council members, when we hear support, advice, counsel, sage counsel such as yours, and then that becomes the bill that we're talking about and it grows with us, it makes everything that we've worked on over the last 8 years worth it. So Peter, thank you for that. And bringing up the important issue about guardianships, because I might be one of the only attorneys in the world that actually handle guardianships in a past life and the difficulties that anyone, especially our seniors and our veterans, would have to navigate that world is tremendous that you brought it up. What I'd like to do is just with this quick moment, thank our great chairs, Chin and Deutsch. Margaret and Chaim have been stalwart leaders and have been an honor to work with them from day one, especially bringing the bill 1616 to the floor today, which quickly I would just want to say requires the Department of Veterans Services to include in its annual report data about the number of senior veterans DVS serves, as well as the number of inquiries received by DVS from veterans regarding social service programs such as the SNAP and the New York State Veteran Property Tax Exemption, affordability housing programs such as those run through the New York State Housing Authority and the New York Department of Housing Preservation and Development. These data-driven bills, even at the last hearing, when we asked some of those critical questions, are still things that are missing. And as DVS has grown, we're excited to see it grow, but these are key components that not only the groups that are here today, but every veteran deserve to know the numbers. And that's why this bill is so important, especially with this pandemic. Not only has been tough on the city, but no community has been hit harder than our seniors. So today we look even further, not only to our seniors, but those who have served this country and are now looking to us for support and services. This is why I drafted 1616, and this is a step ensuring we have a clear understanding of the number of senior veterans who are utilizing the available benefits and programs the city has to offer, as well as reviewing, like Peter and everyone else has said, our outreach efforts so that no veteran is left behind. The timing couldn't be more critical. So I want to thank Speaker Johnson, Chairs Chin and Deutsch for allowing the bill to be heard and allowing me to jump in at this moment. So God bless every one of you, and thank you.
Thank you so much, Councilmember Vallone. I'm now going to turn it over to our last panelist on the first panel, Coco Calhoun.
Thank you. Thank you to Chair Deutsch and Chair Chin for the opportunity to speak today. I've submitted about 10 pages of testimony that has all kinds of facts and recommendations in terms of what I think we need to be doing. But I just wanted to highlight a few things, which basically that we're not doing anything. Sort of as a citywide, there are no programs that work on outreach for senior veterans and specifically those entitlements that they've earned. I think Chair Chin pointed that out in her opening statement, and it's true. If you go on DFTA's website, the word veteran isn't even there. And given that that's, a sizable portion of New York City seniors, it should be. You'd think even a link over to DVS. So I just also wanted to touch on, obviously, something everyone's talked about. Pete was just referring to the digital divide, that so many seniors are not online. So we're all kind of talking about moving our services online, but that's not effective in the end because so many seniors can't access us that way. And I wanted to just provide an anecdote. A couple of weeks ago, one of my attorneys and I went to a 90-year-old Korean War veteran's house. He's been facing for many years eviction because of a nuisance situation. So we went to help him to clean it out. And we discovered, we had done the mission vet check over the summer. We had given him a phone call. He said he was fine. That wasn't true. He was living with total just garbage everywhere. He was, it looks like, surviving off of crackers that he had probably taken from delis, diners, who knows. You know, he has a phone. It's not a smartphone. He can't access anything. He used to rely on a senior program at the Y near his house. He can no longer go there. It's been closed for over a year, along with all the other senior centers. And so, you know, this is a perfect example of someone who is the hardest hit, who is completely isolated. He has no family. And we went to get him set up. You know, he had food stamps, they got cut off. We went to apply, everything's online. You know, I'm trying to figure out, well, I guess I'll put my email in for it. We did reach out, thankfully, for emergency grocery delivery, which is fantastic for him. But this is just the perfect example, right, where no matter what services we're all providing, if we're not finding a way to reach those individuals, they are suffering. And, you know, so many of our clients tell us the library is how they got online, and they can't do that anymore. And there's no one there, even if they do have access, there's no one to help them figure it out. Whereas at the library there was, or at these senior centers. So I think we really need to come together as a community and figure out, how do we reach these people? It can't, you know, it can't just be that check alone. It can't just be DVS alone. It has to be a community effort. And that's something that we're working on, and putting together a plan with collaboration with a few other agencies to try to come up with something, because it's something that we all need to work together on. It's not something one entity can attack. And I just wanted to point out two things: the Veterans Pension and Aid in Attendance, which is a benefit from the VA that is life-changing for a lot of seniors. And then also that the American Rescue Plan just reinstated a very, very important benefit, VRAP. It's Veterans Rapid Retraining Program. And it's essentially like anyone who doesn't qualify for the GI Bill, age 22 to 67, can qualify. They haven't issued the regulations in terms of how this is going to be distributed, or, you know, how people can apply and all of that, but it's coming, and it provides us the same stipend as the GI Bill. And so, and the main qualification aside from that is that you're unemployed due to COVID. So this is something that can help so many New Yorkers up to age 67. But most important also is just getting people into the VA and the resources. And I think Joe mentioned that there's a RAND study that shows that the health outcomes from the VA, once you get someone in there, are better in almost every category than most of the major HMOs. Yeah, I will leave it at that. Thank you for your time today.
Thank you so much, Coco. I'm now going to turn it over to Chair Deutsch, who will be asking questions first. Panelists, please stay unmuted if possible during this question and answer period. Thank you. Chair Deutsch, please begin.
Yeah, thank you. First, I want to acknowledge some of my colleagues who have joined, Councilmember Brooks Powers, Councilmember Traeger, and you heard from Councilmember Valone before. Thank you. So I don't have any questions for our panelists, but what I just want to say is that how important it is, like Councilmember Valone mentioned, how important it is that when members, not only the City Council, members of the public, sees the, you know, how CBOs, how not-for-profits, how organizations are working together, serving our veteran population. The resources are there, and the people are there, the advocates are there. And you put in, you know, you put in so much with all your heart. You put in, you know, for our veteran population, not just for our seniors, for all the 220,000 veterans here in New York City. And it's so good to see that no matter where you turn, you could get help. A veteran can get help, but the obstacle is knowing where to turn. And that's what this is all about, is giving out that information, letting people know that there are people out there who are not only willing to help, who actually get the help to those and fight for those veterans who are going through challenges and obstacles, you know, in their life. So I just want to really thank, you know, everyone, not only those who testified, the Ashtons, Joe, Peter, Coco, and I want to thank all the advocates, all the volunteers, all the people who are who are working for the better of our veteran community, for all that you do. This is probably one of the most important things that we can do in life, to serve our veterans, for those who put their lives on the line for our country. So I just want to thank you all, and it was so important to have you testify, because when we have the administration come up and testify first, and then we hear from the advocates, it's not always helpful. So we want the administration to hear firsthand what the challenges are for the older adults in the veteran population. So I want to thank you all.
Great. And now I'm going to turn it over to Council Member Margaret Chin. If you have any questions for the panelists, Chair Chin.
Yeah, thank you. I just really wanted to thank this panel for your testimony and for your service and all the great work that you do for our seniors and our older veterans. It's really heartwarming to hear that there are organizations and people out there who are doing this work to support the aging veterans. And that's what we need to do in the council, is to make sure that resources are available to organizations like yours, so that you can continue to do the work, the great work that you do, and to make sure that agencies are working together. And it's just so important to get the information out. It's oftentimes it's very sad to hear, when someone come to our office, asking for help, and it was like, and it's also last minute, like they didn't know that these services were available. So I just wanted to, thank all of you for your service. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair Chin. I just have a question. Actually, it's not one of the panelists, but I have a question for Margaret from the Intrepid. Is that a live shot? It looks so tempting. I want to run over there as soon as the hearing's over. No, it's not. Okay.
I will now call on council members in the order they have used the Zoom raise hand function. If you would like to ask a question and you have not yet used the Zoom raise hand function, please do so now. Council members, please keep your questions to 5 minutes. The Sergeant at Arms will keep a timer and will let you know when your time is up. You should begin once I have called on you and the Sergeant has announced that you may begin. Okay. Seeing as there are no hands raised, we are now going to move into our second panel. I will now call on members of the administration to testify. Testimony will be provided by Amari Espinal, Luella Byers. Additionally, Vincent Garcia, Director of Intergovernmental Affairs and Abuzum for DDS, will be available to answer questions. Before we begin, I will administer the oath. Amari Espinal, Vincent Garcia, and Luella Byers, I will call on each of you individually for a response. Please raise your right hands. Do you affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth in your testimony before the committee, and to respond honestly to council member questions? Mr. Espinal.
I do.
Mr. Garcia?
I do.
Mrs. Byers?
I do.
Thank you. Mr. Espinal, you may begin when ready.
Thank you, and good morning to Chair Deutsch, Chair Chin, committee members, and advocates. As we continue to fight this pandemic, I echo our commissioner's sentiments, the mayor and leaders like yourselves, to stay safe, wear a mask, and get vaccinated if you are eligible and have not yet done so. I am Amari Espinal, and I'm proud to serve as a community services team lead for the New York City Department of Veterans Services. I am joined today by Vincent Garcia, our Director of Intergovernmental Affairs and Ombudsman, and Luella Byers, Assistant Commissioner, Bureau of Community Services at the Department for the Aging. I welcome this opportunity to testify about the senior veteran constituency, the programs and services we offer, and our ongoing data collection efforts. Further, I welcome the opportunity to discuss the proposed legislation, Introduction 1616. New York City is home to approximately 200,000 veterans, active duty service members, and reservists. As our nation begins to shift from the most prolonged conflict in its history and individuals pursue other forms of service, the need to identify, engage, and assist our population becomes even more paramount. With this in mind, our agency began a robust data collection effort in the summer of 2019. Since then, our agency has entered into or is currently negotiating over 15 memoranda of understandings, comprising of approximately 70,000 veteran constituent contacts. In working with the VA alone, DVS has received access to the names, addresses, and corresponding VA benefits codes of roughly 30,000 individuals, with a large number being seniors. Through these efforts, DVS has strengthened and empowered our existing relationships with government agencies while developing new ones. In March 2020, DVS shifted its newsletter to occur weekly, serving as a source of information for veterans, advocates, and government officials. In moving into a weekly report, DVS increased the average email open rate by over 50%, directly connecting with constituents and providing a highlight of programs and services. Our other digital outreach tools fared similar beneficial outcomes. During 2020, our agency was able to double its number of Facebook posts, reaching a total of 225,579 individuals, a 63% increase compared to 2019. Similarly, the DVS Twitter account and Instagram page saw increased followers and interactions, leading to expanding the DVS brand and its familiarity with constituents. However, our engagement with the senior population exceeds digital outreach. To better connect and understand the veteran population's immediate needs, DVS has developed innovative ways to work smarter and better. While DVS has always maintained close ties with DFTA, our commissioners have developed an ongoing relationship with one another. Whether in person or in a virtual setting, DFTA continues to connect with providers who serve the general senior population. Throughout several events, DVS attended these meetings with DFTA, providing an overview of our agency, the number of programs and services we offer, and the agency's contact information and social media handles. This way, a veteran or an individual on their behalf has the appropriate contact information to reach our agency and receive excellent service. As first suggested by the Council, DVS also began reaching out to each of the respective community boards. Since starting this initiative in January, our agency is now hosting a community board event aggregated by borough and meeting each Thursday throughout the month of April. Lastly, as highlighted in our previous testimonies, during the start of the pandemic, DVS worked tirelessly to distribute approximately 38,000 face masks to veteran constituents and provide 22 microgrants to VSOs throughout the New York City region. We are confident that our data collection efforts will continue to capture more veterans through these increasing touchpoints with the community and therefore expand services. During our last hearing, we spoke about the VetConnect NYC transition into an in-house platform. In transitioning into this platform, we carefully weighed the concerns and issues raised by nonprofit partners, the council, and constituents while maintaining the quality of services veterans became familiar with. One central theme that arose from the council was DVS's accessibility to data. Since the transition into the Unitas platform, DVS can better maintain constituent data, highlight applicable services, and most importantly, gather the insight necessary as we move into our new chapter as an agency. For example, since our transition on October 1st, approximately 20% of all service requests are made by individuals who are 60 and older, totaling 178 service requests. According to our data, the top 3 service requests for aging veterans are benefits navigation, housing and shelter, and legal. Interestingly, since the transition onto the Unitas platform, service providers on the network can identify any specialized support or services for niche populations such as, quote, veterans, unquote, and, quote, seniors, unquote. Of the 114 organizations, 31 have listed seniors as a specialized population. When combined with the 14 mental health partners, we are confident that senior veterans, like their younger counterparts, have access to a wide range of services dedicated to meeting their needs. Through the most troubling times of the pandemic, New Yorkers everywhere, and particularly seniors, faced increasing levels of isolation and a lack of connection and interaction. We are proud to share that our Mission Vet Check outreach initiative is still ongoing. Although the height of the pandemic is thankfully behind us, its impacts will be felt for months and years to come. That's why we firmly believe in continuing the effort to make direct contact with our constituents. It's imperative that they know they are not alone and that there are resources available to help, especially for our older veterans. To date, Mission Vet Check has made 28,670 calls to veterans and their families with a 23% engagement rate. The initiative has also connected 869 veterans to information, resources, and services. Mission Vet Check has also recently served as a conduit for vaccine information, as our volunteers are equipped with helpful information from both the city and the VA. Through the generous services of the New York National Guard, more than 12,000 calls were placed during the darkest months of April, May, and June 2020. Starting in July 2020, New York Cares volunteers began supporting the project, and to date, more than 400 of their volunteers have supported Mission Vet Check. The New York Cares volunteers who support this initiative have been truly incredible. Some have been making calls to our community every week since our partnership launched in July, because they realize how much of a difference a simple, supportive phone call can make in someone's life. Over the course of 2 focus group sessions we recently held, one volunteer expressed how grateful the veteran was to hear from someone looking to help. Quote, "I was praying that someone would reach out to me, and your call came just when I needed it," end quote, expressed Kai, who has volunteered for the project for the last few months. This veteran articulates the feelings shared by so many others since the onset of the pandemic. As Mission Vet Check continues to make calls, reaching an ever-increasing number of veterans, we are confident that our reach will continue to expand and more veterans will receive the services they've come to rely upon. One of the most significant concerns facing New Yorkers during the pandemic is food insecurity. To address this need, DVS has partnered with Get Food NYC to ensure that our veteran populations can access all of the avenues through which the city provides food assistance to New Yorkers. To support these efforts, DVS coordinators receive training and certification as Get Food authorized enrollers and are assisting veterans in navigating this program's requirements to get food. Veterans can independently or through one of our DVS coordinators submit a food request once every 3 days or 2 weeks of recurring orders. Since the start of this program, DVS has assisted 552 individual veterans with gaining access to food. Of these 552 requests, approximately 45% are seniors. As the council is aware, our work to address food insecurity goes well beyond Get Food NYC. Since the pandemic, DVS has collaborated with HelloFresh in partnership with the state's Nourish New York initiative. Through this collaboration, DVS works with various organizations to distribute 350 to 400 HelloFresh food kits to veteran households per week. Since this program's launch, DVS has delivered 65,533 meal kits to veteran households, 24,000 in this year alone. Further, in addition to the HelloFresh initiative, DVS has also actively engaged with the Bronx Food Initiative to deliver meals to hungry constituents. Through this collaboration, DVS has distributed 25,632 meals, boxes to hungry New York City veterans, and over 9,270 meal boxes this year alone. As we continue developing internal programs and initiatives, DVS looks forward to collaborating with outside organizations to combat food insecurity facing our constituency. Veterans experiencing homelessness is one of the foundational pillars of this agency. Even during the pandemic, which DVS understands has created greater housing insecurity, DVS continues to house veterans to ensure that they are in safe, secure housing. While our veteran peer coordinators are no longer working in city shelters, they continue their important work to house veterans, albeit under different circumstances. For example, house viewings and interviews shifted to virtual modes, and management companies opted to complete a phone or video call interviews with potential veteran applicants. If virtual options were not sufficient, our VPCs would safely conduct physical inspections of the units, pick up and drop off documentation, and assist with the veteran's move. Through these efforts, DVS has found notable success. Since the start of the fiscal year, we've housed 105 veterans, 33 of whom are seniors. Interestingly, when taking into account those who are 55 and older, that number increases to 56. This past November alone, DVS staff housed 29 individuals, our second highest monthly total in the past 3 years. To achieve this goal, we've utilized existing programs such as City FEPS, HUD-VASH, and VASH Continuum, providing our constituency with various housing options. Further, we've engaged and communicated with landlords to expand the pool of housing options for our veterans. When considering the specific needs of our older population, DVS developed innovative methods to house these veterans. Due to delays in obtaining documents at the onset of the pandemic, DVS worked directly with supporting veterans in obtaining documents. We expanded our accessibility by accepting applications via email, the online portal, and scheduling phone calls to assist in their submission. And we worked hand in hand with other city agencies to coordinate remote briefing calls to inform, better, empower, and assist our constituency in finalizing their applications. When considering the three main housing programs in CityFEPS, HUD-VASH, and VASH Continuum, senior veterans accounted for 50%, 33%, and 14% respectively. These metrics show that DVS not only connects and communicates with our aging veteran population, but we ensure that they are included and represent sizable samples of our programs. For example, take the story of veteran M. He is a 70-year-old U.S. Navy veteran referred to DVS by a partner agency for assistance locating housing for himself, his partner, and his adult son. He began working with the DVS VPC in June 2020. Due to his medical conditions, veteran M was seeking housing that could accommodate both him and his partner's limited mobility in an area that would keep them close to support systems. After seeking and viewing several units that did not meet accessibility needs, in January 2021, the veteran was able to move out with his family to a unit in Staten Island. Since his move out, the VPC has been in touch. They were able to secure furniture for their 2-bedroom apartment and are settling into their new home. Or take the story of veteran F. He is a 65-year-old Army veteran referred to DVS's HSS team in August 2020 for housing assistance. Veteran F was chronically homeless at the time of referral. After receiving the referral, veteran F was scheduled by DVS to interview for a supportive housing unit in the Bronx to help his transition from homelessness to housing. Veteran F began the process with a virtual interview and eventually moved out in November to his own newly furnished studio apartment. As we continue to work smarter, utilizing the number of resources available to New York City veterans, such as CityFEPS, HUD-VASH, and VASH Continuum, we can assure you that senior veterans will continue to receive the care, assistance, and engagement they've come to rely on. It was only 5 short years ago that our agency evolved from a mayoral office to a New York City charter agency. During the first years of this agency, our staff was comprised of 4 dedicated employees with a vision to expand, collect, and engage the then 210,000 veterans who call New York City home. Since then, our agency has grown to approximately 40 employees, almost 70,000 veteran contacts, and a newsletter and social media outreach that exponentially expands from year to year. While we believe that there is room for improvement to assist our constituency, it is crucial to recognize how far we've come, particularly how this small but mighty group of civil servants stands dedicated to helping each New York City veteran and their family every day. As we consider the proposed legislation, we recognize the need to better track data across our veteran population and expand our accessibility to that data. As discussed earlier in the testimony, our agency is doing just that. Since the summer of 2019, through our MOU initiatives and inspired by Local Law 23, DVS has engaged our sister agencies to receive contact information for veterans currently receiving particular city services. In addition, DVS has acted on the goals expressed in Intro 1616 through Executive Order 65. Through EO 65, DVS has launched a community survey to compile the demographics of our community and their specific needs. DVS is still evaluating privacy considerations and operational implications related to the bill, but we stand committed to the intent of this legislation and reassure the Council we are actively collecting relevant data of veterans across New York City in creative ways and continue to grow our veteran contact list. We look forward to continued conversations with you on this important issue. As we navigate the challenges presented by the pandemic and beyond, DVS will continue to find new ways to best collaborate with DFTA and all of our fellow agencies to develop and provide quality services and information to the New York City veteran community. We thank you for the opportunity to testify on this matter and look forward to any questions you or committee members may have.
Thank you so much, Mr. Espinal. I will now turn it over to Ms. Byers. You may begin.
Sifter is here for Q&A.
Oh, you're not giving testimony this afternoon?
No.
Oh, okay. All right. So I will now turn it over to Chair Deutsch if he has any questions for the administration. Chair Deutsch?
Are we having testimony from Department of Aging?
Well, Ms. Byers is the only admin here from DIFTA, and she said she's available for questions,
Oh, okay.
but no testimony.
Okay. All right. So my first question is, this is to DVS. How many veterans above the age of 60 live in New York City?
So currently, we do have a breakdown of that, council member. And looking at the latest numbers, we do see that approximately 70% of the population in New York City are senior veterans.
70% of the population as a whole, or 70% of the population of veterans?
So right now, DVS is able to confirm that those who are 55 and older account for approximately 71% of the New York City veteran population.
City veteran population. How many of these senior veterans are homeless?
So we were attempting to get that information from HUD. Unfortunately, HUD does not provide ages for their homeless population, council member.
They don't provide, but they don't have. They have ages, right? They have to have ages.
They did not disclose that information, council member. When we did the research, we were not able to locate that information from HUD in particular.
Do you know why?
I don't have an exact reason, council member, but we are actively pursuing that information in order to utilize it to our best advantage.
So how is, I don't understand, how is DVS pursuing that? If HUD has the ages of homeless individuals, now wouldn't it just be like an email requesting if they had information, if they knew how many veterans are listed? Wouldn't that just be like an easy number with today's technology just to respond? Is it something that DVS is not concerned about, that they don't like push HUD to give that information? I mean, you have DVS, that's an agency here in New York City. Shouldn't it be the responsibility of DVS to receive that information?
Of course, council member, and it's certainly not that we're not, we don't care about that population. I can have my colleague Vincent Garcia expand on the communication with HUD, if you would.
Yeah, sure. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. It's definitely something that's ongoing. I think it's being able to recognize if there's any privacy concerns or other metrics and being able to receive that data, council member. But what I can assure you is one of two things. One, that we are actively working on that and also collaborating with our sister agencies in the event they're able to provide any of that information themselves. But I think second to that, as you know, we spoke about those MOU initiatives, it's figuring out alternative ways to better track that information on our housing populations and see how best we can extrapolate that data moving forward.
How long is DVS in an agency here in New York City?
Roughly, I believe our birthday was April 5th, sir. So roughly about a little more than 5 years.
I'm sorry?
A little more than 5 years now.
A little more than 5 years. So in 5 years, DVS couldn't get general counsel to let HUD know if they can give that information to DVS?
Well, I think it's more so just being able to increase, as you know, when we started with just 4 employees and we've been increasing the numbers throughout, it's also being able to increase those touch points and those communications with not just our city partners, but federal partners. So what I can say is that that's something of paramount importance to us, and we're really working forward to develop a more working relationship with HUD to be able to get that information for you.
So isn't it like, if we even have the city part of it, at least we have some kind of numbers?
I'm sorry.
I just want to tell people testifying to DVS, if you don't have an answer to something, just tell me I don't have an answer, or you're right. But don't give me excuses and tell me you're waiting for general counsel when it's over 5 years, when something could have been done. So let's get to the facts. If you have an answer, I'd like to hear the answer. If I'm right, just tell me, yes, you're right, we need to do better. But don't give me an answer that we waiting for general counsel we have to ask, because that is not an answer to me.
Yeah, that's completely understood, sir.
Okay. How many senior veterans does DVS serve specifically?
So, are you saying, Councilmember, in general, or when it comes to housing?
In general.
Okay. So currently we are at a number of, give me 1 second. We had 178 service episodes for clients aged 60 and over.
178 as in 178?
178 service episodes within the VetConnect NYC platform that we disaggregated for age that were 60 and over.
So out of 70% of a senior, a veteran senior population, out of 200,000 veterans, so you tell me 178 veterans over 60, 55 that DVS served?
Well, those numbers are from October 1st through March 31st of 2021, Councilmember.
So what is the previous year for the full year?
Give me 1 moment. So we have 148 for fiscal year 2021.
148 total.
For the fiscal year, correct.
So, okay. This is why we have this joint hearing today between DVS and DFTA, because DFTA has information and they have resources that could help seniors, senior veterans. And the numbers you've given me, do you think those numbers are good? Like,
well, Councilmember, we're always seeking to expand our messaging and outreach.
Yeah, but 100 between 140 and 170, 140 for a total year. That's totally like unacceptable, because how can you know, if you had 10,000 or 20,000 or 30,000, because 70% are seniors, right? So you're reading me from what, from VetConnect?
That is correct, Councilmember.
So that's still a very
I'm getting an update, Councilman. I have it's 1,620 since the start of VetConnect in fiscal year 2019,
which is also a very low number. Now we keep on saying, and DVS, you in your testimony, that we have 200,000 veterans, right? 200,000 plus veterans. The numbers keep on changing from 210, 220, 200. How many New York City veterans are there?
So currently, Councilmember, there are 149,000 veterans, and
your testimony say 200.
Excuse me. It's 151,000 veterans in New York City. In addition to that, there are approximately 49,000 active duty, reserve, and National Guard members that are currently serving.
Okay, so so we're talking about a population of about 200,000, correct?
That is correct, Councilman.
And does DVS represent 200,000 veterans, New York City veterans?
We strive to assist any veterans that come to our agency for assistance, Councilmember, and we work with our sister city agencies as well as our state and federal counterparts to address those needs as best we can.
So in every testimony, I'm hearing about the 200,000 veterans that DVS serves here in New York City. And you mentioned in your numbers of engagement and the rate of engagement to veterans. What are those numbers again? If you could repeat those numbers of engagement that you read in your testimony. And if you could just repeat that paragraph.
The one that I read in the testimony, Councilman?
Yeah, right.
Yes. If you'd allow me one moment, please. Vincent, do you have that those numbers readily available?
Chair, what numbers in particular are you looking for, Chair?
I'm sorry?
I'm just curious, what numbers in particular are you looking for?
Well, you spoke about the numbers of engagement, the engagement rates.
Oh, well, I believe the number that you're referring to then is that based on the number of service episodes that we have within VetConnect, 20% of those are individuals that we can, in our platform, signify that they are 16 and older. So of the VetConnect population that we have, 20% are 16 and older of those engagements. Is that what you're referring to, Councilmember?
No, I'm referring to the engagement engagement rates that you mentioned before in your testimony. If you just look at your testimony, you mentioned when you mentioned that when you mentioned you do outreach to veterans and their families.
The metrics that I believe may go through is that we currently we're either negotiating or have roughly about 70,000 contact information for the veteran constituency. Then we have 20% of the service episodes are of senior veterans. And then within Mission Vet Check, we have a 23% engagement rate.
Can you repeat that again?
Yes, sir. So based on our MOU initiative and then the list that we received from the VA, there's approximately 70,000 contacts that we either receive or are working on. Then there's 20% of our service episodes within VetConnect since October 1st, since transition. That is the senior population, ages 60 and older. And then in our Mission Vet Check initiative, there is a 23% engagement rate from the calls that we've made. And those calls are 28,670. So that 28,670, there's a 23% engagement rate from there. And that has led to 869 service episodes.
Which is still extremely low. With respect to the community survey issued by DVS, have the preliminary numbers revealed any information about senior veterans' needs during the pandemic?
So thank you for that question, Councilmember. We are still collecting data as the survey was recently launched. We do collect data on the service era in which the veteran serves, and there is an opportunity to collect age afterwards, but we're still waiting on collecting that information, to a acceptable sample size. The survey is currently set to be available until October 1st of this year.
How does DVS, considering this important hearing, how DVS and Department of Aging are working together, how does DVS and DFTA do work together to serve the senior population? You did mention that you have a very close relationship, and that's not what I heard at the last hearing when I questioned them about the Department of Aging. How many conversations they have and what kind of partnership they have working together for our senior population. So I'm asking you, what is DVS and DFTA? How do they work together?
I appreciate that question, Councilmember. So we at DVS strive to maintain open working relationships with all of our city counterparts. We do work with DFTA if they have an issue that, if we have a veteran with an issue that we cannot address directly, we do make referrals to DFTA. They are in our VetConnect platform currently, and we do make referrals for them for different needs such as transportation, employment or vocational training for seniors, things of that nature.
And how does it work if Department of Aging receives an inquiry about a veteran?
So we communicate with them what the need is that the veteran has. And
so do they send you those referrals? You're sending referrals back and forth? How does it work?
We do get referrals. We do work on a case-by-case basis when we do need the assistance of each other. Yes.
How do they reach out? How do they reach out to DVS? when they need assistance? Do they go on the portal? They contact
we can make a referral within the VetConnect platform. As a courtesy, typically there is a phone call or email that follows that.
Do you know what the number is like for the year 2020 of how many referrals DVS sent over to, how many referrals DIFTA sent over to DVS?
I do not have that data right now, council member. We are willing to share that once we can collect that and get back to you.
Is there a liaison to DIFTA? Is there a veteran liaison to Department of Aging?
So yes, again, our commissioners have been in constant communication, and I'll let our IGA speak on that if he has anything to add to that.
Yeah, the answer is yes. Remember, there's a veteran liaison in the local law 42, but the other thing is that there's a number of touch points between ourselves and their counterparts. So for myself, being the IGA director, I'm in constant communication with my IGA counterpart at DIFTA. And then sometimes that's how we share information. That's how sometimes referrals may come in.
You don't have an estimate of how many referrals you may think you had in 2020?
Unfortunately, at this time, no, sir, but we're more than happy to circle back and get back to you with that number. We want to make sure that we give you the most appropriate number.
Do you feel that there is, that we need to do better between the collaboration between DIFTA and DVS?
I think there's always room to improve. I mean, at the end of the day, what we're able to do is, we expand as a nation, we get better, and we increase these touch points. There's always different things that we can always improve on. I mean, hearing the advocates speak, they spoke about a lot of great things the agency does, but also a lot of room for improvement. So I would say yes, there's always room for improvement, and that's what we strive to do.
You mentioned, can you just talk about a few ways that you feel that we could improve the relationship and the information that we share between Department of Aging and DVS?
Yeah, absolutely. I will. I'm happy to start that off, and then I can, transition over to my counterpart at DIFTA to see if there's anything else that she would like to add. But I think really just, collaboration on certain information, collaboration as we were doing for this year, and I think beforehand on the number of programs that may be accessible for senior veterans, for example. And it's really just having that outreach to get out there. There's a lot of wonderful things that I think DIFTA is doing, DVS is doing, the city's doing as a whole. It's how can we make sure that this information is there for our veteran constituency so they're well aware of it and they know where to go and how to find it. And then I'll pass it off over to my counterpart.
I would say DIFTA works very closely with all our colleagues at sister agencies. We do similar outreach to Department of Veteran Services by staying up to date on any concerns that our veterans have. I think over the past year, especially during this pandemic, I think our relationship has strengthened. Our commissioner has monthly meetings with our providers. These are borough-wide meetings, and we have had the commissioner of DVS attend these meetings where he can interact directly with our providers and let them know which resources and benefits are available to their veterans population. So we thought that was a great link of having our providers who are on the ground, who provide the direct services, being in touch with the DVS and the DVS commissioner, and also contact information on how to reach out to DVS. We also reach out to DVS through our InterGov office. So if there's anything that we need, we will let our InterGov person know and they will reach out.
Thank you. I would just think that if there was a close partnership, there would be testimony from Department of Aging, right? Because you would have probably like 10 pages like Coco, who testified before, on how both agencies do work together. So this is just, Department of Aging has a great chair who's very vocal and holds the agency accountable. But when you come in a hearing, when you come to a DVS hearing, and you don't have testimony of how you work closely together, how you give that information over, then that doesn't show that you do work together. This is just like, to me, it's lip service. We all know, first I want to ask, how many homebound veterans are there in New York City?
So, Councilmember, we are tracking the number of veterans in the city as a whole. Unfortunately, we don't have the number of homebound veterans currently. We are working to track down that information as well.
You did mention in the beginning of the testimony that people should stay safe, they should wear masks, they should get vaccinated. You know, we do have vaccinations for homebound seniors. And how are you talking about people should get vaccinated, and especially our senior population who's been hit very hard? And then when I ask you a question about how many homebound seniors, when we do have the services here in New York City to vaccinate homebound seniors, and you don't have the number. So how are homebound veteran seniors supposed to remain safe if DVS doesn't have that number and we can't get them vaccinated? And we're well a year over since the pandemic started.
I appreciate that question, Councilmember, and it's something that we've been collaborating with the New York Harbor VA. As you well know, we held a town hall on the vaccine process. We inform anyone that comes our way on all avenues of receiving a vaccination, and we do understand that that within the veteran community, information does travel by word of mouth. So we are trying to do both virtual and in-person outreach as best as we can.
And word of mouth is very good, but the whole purpose of DVS is to disseminate the information, to get the information out. And we did speak about at the beginning of the hearing how, with the work of all the advocates, it's so important because it's all about getting the word out, not waiting for phone calls. And what you just mentioned is we're waiting for calls, for people to inquire about the vaccination. But it's DVS's job to reach out and get a hold of those homebound seniors to make sure they get vaccinated. So that answer is totally unacceptable to me, because you need to get out there. And most of the senior population, not everyone has technology. They don't have computers. And so you don't have a plan. There's like no plan. And we're already in the end of April, and you really have no way to know. You have no way of knowing, if we could vaccinate the senior veteran population, because you don't have that information. So, what are your plans moving forward now that you don't have that information, in order to get to do more outreach and to make sure they all get vaccinated?
So I will say, Councilmember, that I will say again that we have been doing outreach in person with various American Legion and VFW posts, which tend to have a majority of senior members, as well as different community board veteran committees in person as well, to get the word out to the local.
You mentioned 70% of the veteran population are seniors. So, and you just mentioned 3 or 4 organizations and not-for-profits, how you get the information out. So that's still 70% of the veteran population are seniors, right?
That's correct.
So is that enough? The work you're doing, is that enough? Or do you have other plans now that it's a concern to reach out to the homebound and the senior population to make sure they get vaccinated?
So we're always looking to expand and amplify our messaging and outreach.
DVS is always looking to expand, but at the end of the day, what are you going to do to expand it?
Well, we would.
You need to have a plan, right? It's not just about talking about how we need to do better, how we need to expand, how we need to do more outreach, but how is DVS going to do that moving forward?
So,
do you have a plan? Do you have a plan of what are your plans? Like, we'd like to know.
So we would plan to ask DIFTA for assistance with outreach to the senior population. We are aware that some senior benefits do overlap with veteran benefits. So we would love to collaborate and coordinate with them and any other community partners, in order to get us to that point.
Okay, that's very good. That's a plan, and that's why we're here today. So I appreciate that. All right, I'm gonna give over. I'm gonna give it over to my colleague, Chair Chen, to ask some questions.
Thank you, Chair Deutsch. Thank you for your question. It just really shows that we have a lot of work to do, that the agencies are not working as closely as we really wanted. I have a couple of questions for DVS. Do you contract with service provider nonprofits to provide assistance to veterans? And also, and especially to senior veterans.
So thank you for that question, council member. So we do have partners within the VetConnect platform that do provide services specifically to seniors. And as far as contracts go, I would allow my colleague Vincent Garcia to expand on that if he would.
Yeah, absolutely. I think to answer your question, Chairwoman, is that the contracts that we have right now, some of them are still ongoing, but the ones that have been executed are really through VetConnect the Unitas platform, which really works with nonprofit providers. If the question is contracts in like a monetary sense with a for-profit business or something like that that deals with these communities, that's not necessarily something that DVS as an agency, because of our size, has. But I can also open up the floor to DIFTA if they would like to discuss any of the contracts they may have that focus on those senior populations and what those look like.
Before DIFTA, so you use the VetConnect. So there are how many nonprofit organizations do you contract with that
Yes, ma'am.
works with the VetConnect?
Of course, yeah. So there are roughly a total of 114 service providers on the VetConnect platform. I think one thing that's important is that all the platform providers that jump onto the VetConnect platform are not there for monetary gain. They're really there to be able to connect with the constituency and provide those services that they have. So of those 114, I believe our last count was 31 focused specifically on the senior population, or that is a population that they specialize in.
So do you fund those organizations?
We do not, ma'am. Those organizations have different streaming processes for funds to which they go through. We actually just serve as a conduit to essentially connect the individual with the provider and then handle a lot of the background information they can, as well as amplifying those messages and that information to ensure that our constituency is aware of vetted service providers that assist in the nonprofit world for whatever services that they're looking for at that time.
Interesting. That's like a total different model. DIFTA has senior centers and case management, and so the group that testified earlier, like the SAGE group and VOTE, you do not provide any funding or any do you have any contract with them for the services that they do?
That is correct. So those organizations that testified previously are organizations that are on the VetConnect platform. So for example, if there's something that a veteran is seeking that they offer, we connect the two together. But there are some additional contracts that we have that may connect to some of those providers on there, but those have not been launched as of yet.
So when you talked about, you mentioned a couple of the organizations that you work with to do outreach, like all the American Legion chapters. How many of those veteran organizations do you reach out to?
Well, I can say that I can get you the exact number, and I'm happy to follow up on that. But I can say that we reached out to every single organization because we reached out to them also to include them within the VSO micro grant program that we talked about within the testimony, as well as face mask distribution. So we reached out to every single partner in the 5 boroughs, and then we maintain those open communications to let them know about the VSO micro grant program, but also include them in our newsletter and just general outreach. So if they know a veteran that's in their bucket, send them over to us, or if there's anything that we can provide as them through the conduit, we're more than happy to do so.
So do you also coordinate with Department of Homeless Services, do they work with you to let you know how many veterans are in their homeless facility and of how many of those are seniors? Do you get those statistics from them?
I believe that we most definitely can get the statistics from DHS, but I can say that we do work with them in regards to housing homeless veterans as a whole. I know that there's some reports to go, as well as some internal dialogue whenever we're housing an individual and see what stock is available out there for vacant units and everything else like that. So there is a communication and a relationship there between the two agencies.
But do they actively, or do you actively get that information from them in terms of like the homeless, homeless veterans that are in their shelter system and how many of them are seniors? Do you get that report from them?
We should. I can circle back to make sure, and specifically for the senior bucket in that population, I know there are reports that are provided to us that we're able to check on a regular basis. I can circle back with you, ma'am, about the senior veteran population as a whole. What I would also like to add is that EO, Executive Order 65 that we spoke about within the testimony, and its parameters may actually be able to alleviate a lot of those concerns, because it will require that interagency connection in providing that data directly to DVS.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, that's what's important. So that's how, because the interagency connection and working together is so important, because if they let you know in terms of the number of veterans that are, these are the veterans that you can help directly to make sure working together with DHS, get them housing or the support services that they need, or to make sure that DHS is taking care of these homeless veterans, right? I think that's why the interconnection, working together is so important. And the same thing with DFTA. I guess the question to you, Assistant Commissioner, is that like DFTA have all these providers, right, for our senior centers, for our home delivered meal program, case management. Are we collecting data in terms of our the consumers are veterans? Are we collecting that data?
We are pleased to say that about 5% of our population are veterans, and those are the ones who identify as veterans, because we do ask for information, but if they do not identify, then we wouldn't have that information. But for the ones who did, there's about 5% of our older adults who participated in DFTA services.
So how do this group of senior veterans, how do they find out about services that the Department of Veterans Service provide? In terms of the two agencies working together, you got the number, you know who these senior veterans are. So how do you connect them to Department of Veterans Services so they know that they can access all these benefits that they're entitled to?
As I mentioned earlier,
as
I mentioned earlier, during this pandemic, and especially since trying to build this relationship, we have had our providers meet with the commissioner of DVS to tell them about our services, to tell them where to get resources, so that in their own neighborhood where there are veterans who have a need, our providers will know where to reach and how to reach out to access these services.
Yeah, so I guess as the Chair Deutsch talked about, we would like to know in terms of how many referrals are provided. Like the question that Chair Deutsch asked about a homebound veteran. I think we should be able to get that number from the home delivered meal program, for example, right? That's the program that serves homebound seniors. And within that population, if we can identify the number of veterans, that information can be given to DVS to do the vaccine or provide other services that they need. The data have this valuable information, yeah.
And if I may, Council Member, I appreciate the question. Of course, we always try to gather information for as many veterans as we can. But I would be remiss if I didn't bring up an issue, is that there are many veterans out there that do not identify as veterans or do not wish to identify as veterans for a number of different reasons. They may not know that they qualify as a veteran. Some with less than honorable discharges may not feel that they're entitled to veteran benefits. Those that were discharged for unfavorable characterizations may not feel that they're entitled to that. So it is an issue that we are aware of, and that's one of the main focus of this community survey, is to really try to inform the veteran community that there are services available to them, regardless of length of service, service era, discharge characterization, any demographic that a veteran falls under in the city of New York. There are services available to them. So that is something that we are actively working on getting to the crux of.
So does the providers, does your provider know that? Are they like information like that that's given out so people know that it, like how would they qualify as a veteran or just as a veteran, no matter what, that these services are available? Because DFTA also has a very large caregiver program. So if the veteran might not want to identify themselves, but their family members or their the people who take care of them, that information is also valuable in terms of getting the caregivers to understand what services are available to veterans.
Right, and DFTA provide a wide range of services, and it's all open to veterans and all older New Yorkers 60 or over. So our providers who are providing case management, as you say, caregiver, any of those services, they know where to access the service. So if someone comes in and they identify as being a veteran, they will get that service. And even if someone just comes in, I'm 60 and older, whatever services are available in DFTA is available to that person.
Yeah, I think also as an additional point on there, to your point, Chairwoman, is that with EO65, one of the things that's also added is that the number of city forms that are out there, of intake forms for the varying agencies, there's going to be 2 questions that are added, essentially figuring out whether this individual served and the capacity of their service. So while those forms are still voluntary, it gives questions to forms that may not be there to really capture that veteran population. So to your point, whether it's the individual veteran themselves feels comfortable filling out this form, or it's a caregiver on their behalf, this is another means to which we can track this information and also track that caregiver status to be able to provide these benefits and information to our constituency. But EO65 is another one of those means that we're able to identify this issue and hopefully through this matter can find a solution to it.
How large is DVS?
As in,
how many staff do you have?
I believe the total staff number is 39 and we're authorized for 44. So if you look at that as a number for that compared to our constituency, it's roughly 1 to, I believe, somewhere around 14,000 or so. So like one employee is handling about 14,000 individuals in our constituency.
Okay, I know that Chair Deutsch, right? The council for this agency, I remember the legislation that was introduced to establish the Department for Veteran Services. So I think that this additional resources need to be allocated. And DVS should also have resources to contract with CBO service provider to assist you to help our veterans and our senior veterans. That's our hope when we fought for this agency. So I think that that is something that we have to make sure that you have the resources to do the work that you do. Because this is an important population that has been ignored, and we got to make sure that we have the resources to do that.
Yeah, absolutely, and we're definitely grateful for that, as well as to Chairman Deutsch's ongoing assistance and advocacy on that behalf. And it's something that we're most definitely looking into, because it's something that will potentially be in the future of DVS and something that we care about greatly. And what I could say is both myself and them are veterans and are individuals that serve. So we're well aware of understanding there's many of us that are out there, and we want to make sure that we touch that constituency and those family members of ours.
Yeah, and I guess my last question is that we talked about the, digital divide and then the lack of technology for the veterans and for the senior. So going forward, how can DVS and DIFTA work together to make sure that senior veterans have access to computers and training so that they can take advantage of all the programs that are online that providers like senior centers are providing, or to be able to sign up for programs and benefits. So are you guys pushing for, tablets for seniors and Wi-Fi or broadband?
I'm happy to hear DIFTA's points on this, but we do have access for any veteran or their family member into the VetConnect platform through telephone as well. So they will receive the same services as if they applied online for an assistance request.
But helping like the veterans, especially the seniors, like to get the equipment, to be able to have a tablet, an iPad that they can go online and really participate in a lot of the services that DIFTA provide. Right, the DIFTA Senior Center, they've been providing a lot of great virtual program, exercise program, lectures. So how are the two agencies coordinating to make sure that our senior veterans also can take advantage of this opportunity?
Sure. I'd like to open the floor to DIFTA if they'd want to elaborate on that.
Thank you for that question. So as you said, that we have a lot of program online, and we have been working on getting equipment. Equipment has been one of the largest challenges, whether it's iPads or phone or stuff. Our providers have been really innovative in trying to make sure that there are programs that are available both through the iPad and both on the phone. And it's something that we have not given up. We're pursuing all avenues to be able to acquire iPads or other equipment for our seniors. We have a few things in the work that I can't really speak about right now. As soon as we do, we will let you know our plan. But I just want you to know that it's something that we discuss on a daily basis. It's something that we also reach out and trying to find the resources to be able to do this.
Well, I mean, we just want to make sure that both agencies are working together on that to make sure that our, older veterans get the services that they need. And finally, I think that with besides the iPads and broadband, I just think that in this budget process that DVS should talk with Chair Deutsch to make sure that you have adequate funding, and we're working together with DIFTA on that. And recently the mayor announced a community care plan. I think within that plan, we have to make sure that our older veterans are included in that plan, because we're talking about expanding more senior centers and more NORC program. And finally, the question to DIFTA. When is our senior center going to be reopening safely? When? There's a lot of seniors, and I'm sure veteran seniors are looking, are asking us that question.
So, and I'm sure you've heard this before also, the safety of our older New Yorkers is our top priority in reopening. And any decision on reopening will be guided by the health and safety of us. In saying that, we are working on plans so that as soon as we get the word that it's deemed safe to reopen the senior centers, we can then start getting on board and have our senior centers open. We also got the green light to pilot a program that will allow us to re-engage the providers back into the meal process. So we're hoping to be able to bring these things online soon, and we speak to DOH, MH on a daily basis. We're in constant contact with them, and as soon as we receive that guidance, we will reopen the senior centers.
I mean, we have reopened our schools and restaurants are open. There is really no excuse why our senior centers are not open. Really no excuse. And seniors, you know, that's their lifeline. That's where they socialize with their friend. They can utilize the computer, get involved in the program. It will help. I mean, a lot of them have been isolated. Their mental wellness is a very big concern. I just don't understand why it's just dragging so long, right? Chair Deutsch, I mean, it's like everyone, I mean, the providers are prepared. We just have to make sure they have the resources. But I hope that we get the center open soon before the summer. We're already in spring.
We will continue to be guided by the science. We also want to let you know, our providers have been engaged with the seniors. We have a full classes that are online, whether it's educational.
We know that. We know that. They're doing a great job, but we need the center
If we're
to
waiting,
reopen,
if we're waiting for
right?
science, it won't be for another 2 years.
I know. I mean, we open our
That is-
schools, right?
Yeah.
So-
No one wants the centers to be reopened more than us, but we have to wait for the guidance to do that.
Vaccinations.
Yeah.
And we are doing a huge outreach in order to get as many New Yorkers, including the older ones, adults. We have vaccinations that are going on in our NYCHA senior centers and community centers. We have our CBOs also are set up to be schedulers. We have vaccines set aside for seniors. So we are doing a lot of outreach. We have made thousands of calls. Our providers make thousands of calls on a daily basis. So we are doing the outreach, and hopefully we will be able to get everyone to get vaccinated. That's our goal, and that's what one of our priorities are. And we have been pushing that and working on a daily basis to get our seniors vaccinated.
So we'll just hope to see our center, you know, open as soon as possible. I mean, the seniors, you know, want those delicious lunch that they miss. Get food is not good enough. Thank you. I'll turn it back to Councilmember Deutsch.
Thank you very much. Thanks, Chair Chen. So I just want to get this straight. So Department of Aging, when you have your intake and you identify the seniors, you know which seniors are veterans? You have that information?
If they self-identify, we know that.
Is it on a form? Is it listed on a form?
It's part of our intake assessments on our clients.
Do you know what the number is of how many senior veterans you have?
Right now, about 5%, just over 5% of our seniors identify as veterans.
You know what number that is? Like what the numbers of how many people?
I don't have that number in front of me, but we can get back to you with that.
5% of how much? Of how many?
5% of about, I think it's roughly 200,000. We'll get back to you on that.
That approximately 200,000, 5% of approximately 200,000?
I don't have that number in front of me, so I don't want to commit to that. So we'll get back to you on the number and the percentage, but it's 5% of the percentage.
5% of whatever numbers you have. Now, does DVS have those numbers? Or you don't know?
Of the numbers that the DIFT is referring to?
Yeah.
I believe we can we may be able to search for, but we would defer to DIFTA on what those numbers are.
No, my question is, no, I'm not asking you for the numbers. I'm asking that the 5% that DIFTA just mentioned of veterans, senior veterans, does DVS have that same information, have that information of the 5%?
Yes, we're aware that the DIFTA, that 5% of the population of VSS are senior veterans. What we'll also add is that
No, my question is that you have that information of who those senior veterans are.
who those senior veterans like directly are. No, we don't have the personal information for that 5% pool.
Why is that? That's what this whole thing's about. That's my question. That's what this whole hearing's about.
Well, the issue would be is that a veteran. I believe there may be a different number of legal implications, but that veteran would have to willingly disclose that information to DFTA and then add in the extra step that DFTA you can.
The assistant commissioner just mentioned that they self-identify. They self-identify to Department of Aging if they're a veteran. And she just mentioned that 5% of the total number are veterans, senior veterans. So my question to you is, do you have those names who DFTA just mentioned, the 5%? Does DVS have those people in the database as part of your senior veterans?
No, they would. There
Why
may
not?
be some similarity, but I think to answer your question, Chair, is
Now, if you
that
can tell me it's a legal issue, it's 5 years into more than 5 years since DFTA was the agency was implemented, right? It doesn't take 5 years to ask a legal question.
sure, but I would not want to steer you away, Councilmember, provide something that would be incorrect. So I can
understand
what that may be and why that rationale, that reasoning is. But I would guess that despite the fact that that veteran is providing the information to DFTA, so for example, if I said, hey, DFTA, you can have my information, I think it'll be an extra step for me to then say as that senior veteran, hey, DFTA, you can now give this information to DVS for another city agency. And I think that is where the issue may lie.
So let's talk about the mayor de Blasio issued an executive order number 65 on March 8th, which among other things calls on city agencies to increase outreach to veterans and develop a veteran indicator question on all intake forms. Are you familiar with that?
Yes, sir.
Now, what happens when the agencies increase their outreach to veterans and veterans reach out to all these agencies? What happens with that information?
That information is then maintained by that respective agency and is provided to DVS, I believe, no later than October 15th of each year.
So so all that information comes to DVS?
Well, yes, the information will come to DVS, that data to the level instance, but we'll have to.
So if all the other agencies are supposed to be doing outreach to develop a veteran indicator, people to reach out to these agencies, and then that information goes to DVS, right? So why can't DVS get that information from DFTA, the 5% that they have? I mean, shouldn't that be part of this whole executive order of what the purpose is of this executive order?
Well, I'm more than happy to verify, those intricate data points and circle back with you, Chair. But I think once again, what that issue may come about is just that private concern, that second step. If a veteran self-identifies to an agency, there's still that extra step of saying, hey, you can now share my personal information with another agency or throughout the city government experience. And I think that I would need to circle back on what those concerns may be, and then obviously provide that to you in the council.
Okay. Can you also provide it to Chair Chin when you have that information?
Absolutely.
Also, I just got numbers from committee staff that in FY 2020, there's 243,000 senior participating in DFTA service. And then in FY 21 is 181. So you're talking about 9,000 seniors, senior vet this year, and 12,000 last year. So those are the information that DFTA could be given to DVS for you to do outreach to them to see if they got all the services that they're entitled to.
Yeah,
that's why, Chair Chin, that's why I always say one agency doesn't know what the other agency is doing.
I mean,
Yeah,
like
you would-
we have, they have the statistics and they have the numbers. So it really would be very helpful to DVS to get this information and really reach out directly to the seniors, veterans.
Yeah, no, of course. Our goal at DVS is to be as transparent as possible with data sharing, and we are still waiting on responses from respective agencies to try to obtain that data and work with it.
All right, so you'll get back to us. Do we know how many veterans may have passed away during COVID? Do we have any of those numbers? If any?
We do, Chair. The numbers that we can provide to our information is that there have been 255 veterans who've passed away, but that's according to the VA's statistics. So that'll be ones that the VA is tracking as publicly released.
So does DVS doesn't have like a relationship with the medical examiner to find out how many from that number resides in here in New York City?
We can definitely circle back. We do have a relationship with the medical examiner. If I recall correctly, on death certificates themselves, usually it's box 15 is what signifies whether an individual served in the armed forces, and obviously a survivor will have to check that box off for the deceased. So we can definitely circle back to see. But veterans passed away. I think veterans passed away from COVID will be two separate buckets that we'll have to figure out.
Yeah, no, because I'm again, I'd like to see those numbers, but also I don't want you to do it for me. I want you to do it because DVS should have those numbers, and that's why I keep on bringing up it's important to get those veterans vaccinated.
Yeah, absolutely, sir. We understand that completely, and we're always grateful for those things as well.
Now, when a veteran reaches out to DVS, what is usually the turnaround, the timeline of when they reach out to you and when they receive services?
So if it's a non-emergency situation, which most of them are, council member, typically takes about 2 to 3 days, if not sooner, for one of our staff to reach out to them.
What's considered an emergency?
If they have a mental health crisis.
That's 911. Yeah, that would be a 911 call.
Yes.
Okay. So okay. Now, you mentioned that if someone reaches out to the Department of Aging, then Department of Aging would reach out to DVS, to give some cases for veterans to receive the services. What is the timeline from when a veteran? You did say that you do get calls from the Department of Aging. So when a veteran reaches out to the Department of Aging, and then it comes to DVS, what is the timeline of that case for that veteran to receive services?
So again, Councilman, if it's not an emergency situation,
I'm talking about emergency is 911.
Okay, so typically, no more than 2 to 3 days, if not sooner.
How do you know that?
How do we know that?
Yeah, how do you know it's 2 to 3 days? So if someone reaches out, if a veteran reaches out to DVS, to Department of Aging, it could sit by Department of Aging for 2 to 3 days.
Oh, you're saying before they referred it to DVS?
Yeah, correct.
Okay, that I don't know, Councilmember. I would defer to DIFTA if they have any information on that.
So I don't want to defer to DIFTA because it's DVS's job to make sure that if someone does reach out to another agency and then it gets referred to the department, to DVS, so it's not DIFTA's job. It would be DVS's job to make sure that those services get expedited and that veteran doesn't have to wait 1 week, 2 weeks, 1 month. Because if there is a long turnaround for that veteran to receive services, then there has to be a better system between DVS and other agencies of when they get referrals, when referrals are sent over to DVS.
So we strive to, absolutely, Councilman, we strive to address our assistance requests as soon as we receive them. It could be that a phone call is made right after the referral is made. So unfortunately,
but shouldn't we know how long it takes? Like if you receive an email from DIFTA, if you would just ask, okay, when did you get this? And then as DVS, as an agency, your job is to make life easier for the veterans, right? So you need to think out of the box, right? Not just when you receive that information. I'll give you an example. Someone called my office up. They wanted to apply for SNAP. So my staff comes over to me and says, we took care of it. They will be approved in 10 days from now. So I asked my staff member, what are they doing? Did you ask them what that family is doing for the next 10 days? Then she told me no. So I said, well, let's make the phone call now. Sure enough, there was nothing. They had no food for the next 10 days. So we had to provide them from our own pockets, to provide them food for those 10 days. Now, if someone reaches out to the Department of Aging and they make a referral to DVS, right? And emergencies is 911, but in any other case, you still want to know and analyze, and it's good information to know of how long that has been sitting with Department of Aging or any other agency. When did that get to you? And then your response is usually, you said 2-3 days. So that information you have already, that once you get that information, it's 2 to 3 days. But we need to make sure that if there's an issue of that information getting to DVS, how can we do better to make sure that a veteran doesn't have to wait a week or 2 weeks, depending on how long that information was sitting by another agency, such as Department of Aging.
okay, yeah, I understand your concern now, Councilmember, and that's something that we would certainly like to capture moving forward, because it can get discouraging for a veteran when they're reaching out and they're kind of getting bounced around. So I completely understand your concern, and that's something that we can work on moving forward.
So I think we're going to end it right here unless Chair Chin has any other questions. No. So I want to thank DVS. I want to thank Vincent, Amari, and Louiella. Hope I got your name right. For testifying, for being here today. So I want to thank you all for all the work you do on behalf of the veterans and our seniors. And I'm going to give Margaret an opportunity to thank you as well. I'm sure she wants to thank everyone before we hear from our next panel.
Yeah, just want to thank all of you for testifying, and I hope to build stronger relationship between DIFTA and DVS to make sure that our senior and especially our veteran seniors are getting the services they need. So thank you.
Thank you very much.
All right, thank you. I will now call on council members. We're going to open it up for a brief question and answer period. So I'm going to call on council members who have their hand raised and feature in Zoom. If you have any, if council members have questions for the administration, now would be the time to raise your hand in Zoom. As don't see any hands raised. All right. So we'll move on to our last panel. We will now turn to Ryan Graham, Leo Asin, Ruth Stein, Ryan Foley, and Margaret Gimbaro. I'm sorry if I said your last name wrong. After I call your name, a member of our staff will unmute you. Again, there may be a few seconds of delay before you are unmuted, and we thank you in advance for your patience. Please wait for a brief moment. The Sergeant at Arms will announce the start time before you begin your testimony. Again, for council members who have any questions for a particular panelist, please use your raise hand function in Zoom. I will call on you after the panel has completed their testimony in the order in which you raised your hand. Okay. I would like to now welcome Ryan Graham to testify. After Ryan Graham, I will be calling on Leo Asin, thereafter Ruth Stein, followed by Ryan Foley, and last Margaret Gimboro. Ryan Graham, you may begin.
Time starts now.
Okay, I think Ryan is not on this call. We may come back to him if he pops up back again. So we'll just move on to our next panelist, Leo Asin. Are you available on here? Yes, he is. Okay.
Time starts now.
Oh, good. Good afternoon, Chairs Deutsch and Chin and members of the committees on Veterans and Aging. My name is Leo Asin. I am a volunteer and president of AARP New York, representing 750,000 members of the 50-plus community in New York City. I'm also a veteran. Thank you for providing me with the opportunity to testify today. AARP New York fully supports Intro 1616 in order to improve reporting on senior veterans as well as reporting on social services and affordable housing programs for veterans. However, for many veterans, it can be hard to find the right information on benefits and services earned through serving in the military, not to mention any other benefits depending on socioeconomic status. We know accessing benefits is challenging across the board. Having the Department of Veterans Services collect data on inquiries by veterans will help the city understand the actual needs and demand for critical services and help connect veterans to the appropriate agencies who deliver them. It's particularly important that we make every effort to meet the needs of senior veterans right now when older New Yorkers have disproportionately suffered the effects of COVID-19. As the city begins to recover, senior services are crucial to address issues that have been exacerbated by the pandemic, especially with regards to food insecurity, social isolation, healthcare, and other related social services. For these reasons and more, AARP New York fully supports Intro 1616 in order to improve reporting on senior veterans and reporting on social services and affordable housing programs for veterans. Thank you for your time and for the opportunity to testify today.
Thank you so much. Ruth Stein, you may begin.
Time starts now.
Thank you. I'm wondering if Ryan Foley from NILAG as well can go before me, please.
I'm sorry, you want me to unmute Ryan as well? You're going to be giving testimony together. Sure.
Yes, thank you.
Awesome.
Time starts now.
Yes, thank you. Can you hear me? Chair Deutsch, Chair Chin, council members and staff, good afternoon, and thank you for this opportunity to speak about supporting New York City's aging veteran population. My name is Ryan Foley, and I am the supervising attorney of the Veterans Practice at New York Legal Assistance Group's Public Benefits Unit, and I lead NILAG's council-funded community-based legal services for veterans initiative work. I am joined today by my colleague Ruth Stein, who is a senior staff attorney in our Legal Health Unit's Veterans Initiative, where she staffs our older veterans legal clinic. I would like to briefly discuss NILAG's work on behalf of veterans, including the impact of COVID-19, before handing it over to Ruth to speak about her clinic and the importance of increased data reporting by the Department of Veterans Services. In 2020, NILAG assisted more than 800 veterans, 53% of whom were age 60 or older. The issues presented by the older veteran population are wide-ranging, but often concern essential human needs, such as housing, income, and healthcare, including advanced planning and long-term care. COVID-19 has been devastating for the older veteran population, and we have experienced significant shifts in terms of intake flow and reported legal issues from our older veterans. Early on, it was a struggle to reach and connect to older veterans. Our clients who are used to seeing us in the community at different veteran sites, as well as the VA, suddenly lost that connection. And the technology innovations we use to connect with younger veterans were simply not as effective with the older population. It took the creation of new hotlines, campaigns with our partners to make sure our older veterans knew we were still there at their side. NILAG is grateful to the City of New York for its investment in legal services for veterans, which is critical to the work we do on behalf of the older veteran community. And we are delighted to receive funding from New York City's Department of Veterans Services to assist veterans, including older veterans, who require discharge upgrades because they cannot access benefits due to their less than honorable discharges. Still, services for veterans have not been spared from budget cuts, and continued and expanded funding for veterans' legal services must remain a priority. I would now like to turn it over to my colleague, Ruth.
Time starts now.
Thank you. My name is Ruth Stein, and I work in Legal Health, NILAG's Medical Legal Partnership, which staffs legal clinics at the Manhattan and Bronx VA medical centers. Due to the instability of private funding resources, we were forced to close our older veterans clinic in July 2019 and have only recently been able to reopen. This clinic is dedicated specifically to elderly, low-income VA patients whose physical and/or mental health issues, which often stem from their military service, are compounded by the impacts of aging. These veterans deal with complex, intersecting legal issues that affect their health. A veteran recently diagnosed with dementia may require advanced planning, but also a pooled trust in anticipation of home care needs and to ensure the rent is paid on time. We may need to fight predatory debt collection to help a veteran to afford essential expenses. A veteran may require help with unexpected interactions between varying government benefits, such as when the onset of Social Security creates a VA pension overpayment. Our older veterans legal clinic works at these intersections in VA benefits, Social Security, housing, family law, consumer issues, and advanced planning, utilizing the expertise of NILAG's 300+ attorneys, paralegals, and financial counselors to comprehensively address veterans' civil legal needs. Over the past year, which has been especially devastating for the vulnerable veteran community we serve, this ability to maximize resources on behalf of New York City veterans has never been more important. Tracking inquiries by aging veterans for the essential services provided by New York City, from housing to Medicaid to income support, is crucial in examining the full scope of these problems and determining where needs are still not being met. NILAG fully supports Councilmember Vallone's bill to amend Local Law 44 of 2019, requiring data on senior veterans to be included in DVS's annual report. It encourages further collaboration between DVS and other NYC agencies serving the veteran population. It is more important than ever to ensure we are. Thank you.
Yeah. You finished? Or you still have more?
Oh,
You can
no,
wrap up if you want.
You can go ahead. You were pretty
Okay,
good.
thank you so much.
You must have
It's
been a
more
good student.
important than ever to ensure that we are meeting the needs of our aging veterans whose military-related disabilities and trauma often place them in a more vulnerable position than the general New York City aging population. And we thank these committees for highlighting this issue and for the continued support of the work NILAG does to help our older veterans. Thank you for the opportunity to testify today. We look forward to engaging in further discussions about serving our veteran communities and improving their access to critical legal services and other resources. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ms. Stein. I will now call on Margaret Gimbora.
Time starts now.
Hello, my name is Margaret Gambaro, and I am the manager of Access Initiatives at Intrepid Sea, Air, and Space Museum. In this position, I have the pleasure of planning and conducting the museum's programs for former and current service members and their loved ones. I do want to take a moment to acknowledge the generous financial and advisory support of the City Council Committee on Veterans. I want to thank Chair Deutsch and the committee members and staff for your ongoing efforts to connect veterans with one another and with cultural resources like the Intrepid Museum. At the Intrepid Museum, our mission is to promote awareness and understanding of history, science, and service in order to honor our heroes, educate the public, and inspire our youth. The museum has a long history of supporting aging veterans through volunteer services and supporting Intrepid's former crew member association. In 2015, we began military family programs, which not only invited service members to bring their children to the museum, but also older veterans to bring their grandchildren and other family members. Around the same time, we began Intrepid After Hours, which is for current and former service members only. The program brings together service members of different branches, ranks, and generation in ways they may not otherwise. We acknowledge that many aging veterans are not as lucky to have loved ones bring them to Intrepid Museum or be able to make the trip. With that in mind, we began Vet Video Chats. Through Vet Video Chat, we virtually connect with veterans facilities, including retirement homes all over the country, and bring the museum to them. At the beginning of the pandemic, we knew it was important for the museum.
Time expired.
Our veterans programs. I have 2 more sentences. Is that okay?
Sure, go ahead.
Okay, cool. It was important for the museum to keep our veterans programs going. We immediately transitioned Intrepid After Hours and Intrepid Book Club to a virtual format. The Intrepid Museum continues to give aging veterans a place to connect with one another and service members of other generations, providing a platform to come together, learn about something new, and share their stories. Thank you.
5 sentences, Margaret.
Thank you so much. Actually,
I just want to make a comment. I want to thank the Intrepids. Each year we have hundreds. Unfortunately, not during the pandemic, we have hundreds of veterans that we have a trip going to the Intrepid, and they enjoy a beautiful day out there. So I want to give a shout out to Intrepids, and if you haven't been there, you should really visit.
Thank you, Chair Deutsch. We have a last panelist, Steve Palmer.
Time starts now.
I can hear you.
Yeah, okay. Good afternoon, Chair Deutsch and Chair Chen and fellow City Council members. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to testify. My name is Steve Palmer. I'm 59 years old. I'm a Marine Corps veteran. I want to speak to you today about the challenges I experienced after leaving active duty and how I got the help I needed to live in New York, nonprofit agency called Project Renew. I began serving my country with the Marines in 1980, right after high school. I quickly achieved the rank of private first class once I completed boot camp. I served as a demolition specialist at a base in California, and then as a guard at a nuclear naval weapons station in South Carolina. During my term of service, I was promoted to sergeant and received the Marine Corps Conduct Medal, Good Conduct Medal. But after 6 years as a Marine, I developed a chronic leg problem and had to be honorably discharged. I had trouble adjusting to society. The Marine Corps was all I had known for my entire adult life. I tried to re-enlist, but my health issues made it physically impossible. I was depressed, reckless, and felt like I had been rejected from the only job where I would fit in. I started drinking, using drugs, and ended up in homeless. I spent time in out psychiatrist wards and lost touch with my family. But when I learned about Project Renew, a counselor at a drop-in center told me that it could help me find a place to stay and provide treatment soon after I started living in Project Renew 3rd Street Men's Shelter. I had been to other shelters, but the facility service at 3rd Street was better than any I had ever encountered. I received medical and mental care there, plus substance use treatment abuse program, recovery and outpatient clinics. Within the shelter, I started to live life on my own terms again. While at 3rd Street, I learned about the Homeless Now program and one of the Project Renew permanent housing programs will help people like on their own in apartments throughout the city, while continuing to provide case managers and counselors in group through the program. I was able to move out of the 3rd Street into my own home apartment, Brooklyn. I've now been striving within the homes now for over 17 years. Today I'm doing drug-free, alcohol-free, serve and receive on a regular basis, continue to help me navigate the challenges I still talk to my psychiatrist every day for 24 hours if I need her. I'm now in a place where I can get back to people who I'm struggling that struggle like me once I did. After with my church, doing outreaches, homeless people, helping them find housing, hot meals, even sometimes getting a haircut. I'm also able to stay connected with my daughter and family and grandchildren. I am truly blessed to know that I will be there for them while in future time. Thanks Project Renew, I will be 60 years old. I'm still going strong. I'm here to support into the 1616, which will help elect officials and general public come to a deeper understanding of the challenges and social safety net various faces veterans is needed. In addition, I'd like to ask the City Council to expand funding of veterans like me through an inactive life homeless program served for veterans with a critical source of support from Project Renew. Thank you for this opportunity to testify.
Thank you, Steve. Project Renewal, they do wonderful work, and your testimony was really something very inspiring. I was inspired by just listening to what you went through, and you're here today testifying at the hearing. So I want to thank you for your service. God bless you. God bless your family, and your story should be told to to everyone. People should know the obstacles that you went through, the challenges you went through as a veteran, and where you are today. So thank you so much. Thanks for sharing that story. Thank you.
Thank you, Steve. That was really impassioned testimony. I will now turn it over to Chair Deutsch for questions if you have any. And Chair Deutsch, after your questioning, if you want to pass it on along to Chair Chin, and then we'll open it up to the rest of the council members.
Yeah, I think I'm good. I just want to thank everyone once again, everyone who joined the panel. And God bless you all. God bless the United States of America. God bless our veterans. And God bless all those who continue to serve in our military, protecting our wonderful country. And I'll give this over to Chair Chen.
Thank you. I also wanted to really thank this panel for your great work for our veterans. My husband's having a music lesson with a student. I'm so glad to hear the testimony from Mr. Palmer that we do have good organizations out there that are helping, our veterans and our homeless veterans, and we need more programs like that. I do have one question for Ryan from NILAC. Is your program Legal Services for Veterans, is that funded by the Department of Veterans Service or by the City Council?
Our program is currently funded by City Council. We are working with DVS currently on funding that will be specific to discharge upgrades.
Okay, yeah, I just wanted to clarify that because DVS earlier said that they don't have any contracts with organizations. So hopefully in the future, they'll be able to have more resources. So they could, contract organizations like yours and Project Renewals and others to provide a service. So Margaret, from the Intrepid Museum, do you also use the public access channel to promote your program? Because not everybody has internet services, right? But they all have, everybody have a television set. So do you utilize the public access channel?
So far, no, we do not. Right now it is just online, but luckily we have just reopened. We are open Thursday through Sunday, and we hope to bring back our in-person programming as soon as we can. Because yes, we do.
And Margaret, if you have to go, if you have some constituents that want to join, she'll arrange a F-16 to pick you up.
Great. I mean, my maternal grandfather was a World War II veteran, and hey, we just fought hard to get Chinese American veterans recognized for their contribution to World War II. So definitely, I'm sure the local American Legion group would love to do a visit. So I will contact you. Yeah.
Yes, definitely.
I guess for Department of DVS who's still here, Vincent, I see that you're here. That I think the public access, the city's public access channel is something that we really should look at utilizing to get information out and also provide programming, because not everybody have computers or smartphone, but most likely everybody have a television set, the TV. So that's a resource I think we should definitely utilize. But thank you again to everyone for your service and for coming to testify today. Thank you, Chair Deutsch.
Thank you. Thank you. I think we're done. So
I will open this up to council questions. Hold on one second, Chair. Sorry, I just want to see if there are any questions. Yeah, there doesn't seem like any. So I'll turn it back to you.
thank you very much. And this hearing is now adjourned. Thank you all.